Today, I'm reviewing the Roseselsa Photon Pro in-ear monitors. These have been sort of marketed as a budget gamer's earphones. Are they? Well, let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. That is a little box. Fitting because the IEMs are tiny. Look how small. Look how small that is. Now, due to the size of these tiny shells, Roseselsa had to use what we call a micro driver. It's an 8mm dynamic driver. So we've got this classic old bullet style shells. Let's have a look at the cable real quick first. It's decent. I mean, first of all, the price of the Photon Pro here is between like $17 and $19, so less than $20 for these earphones. So, you know, keep your expectations in check. Having said that, you might be surprised, but the cable, it's a fabric, got a fabric braided sheath on it, and it's all right. Nothing, it's not terrible, it's not fantastic, but certainly not bad for, you know, the price, except for, you know, my pet peeve, what triggers me. Yeah, here we go again. Those damned ear hooks. Stop doing that, please. It's probably going to be fine for your ears, but if you've got slightly larger ears or if you've just got a weird shaped head like I do, then this might drive you nuts. I mean, look, it's fine for this ear, but I guess my ear just doesn't look like that because, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that. The cable has an inline remote, 3-button remote and microphone, and it's a pretty decent quality microphone, so it's fine for chatting to your mates if you're in a game or if you're on a call, whatever. Anyway, that is the cable. Let's get on to the IEMs, because despite being labeled as gaming earphones and being so cheap, these actually sound pretty good. I'll throw up the graph. Now, a couple of people in my recent video of the Truth Ear Pure said, "Oh, can you put the Harman target in your graph?" Well, here it is. There's a Harman target for comparison. You can see the Photon Pro has got quite a lot more bass than the Harman target, but despite what it looks like on the graph, this is not a bass head IEM. Sure, it has an emphasized bass, but it doesn't sound huge, and it's well controlled. Of course, it is going to put some warmth into the lower mids. I mean, the bass shelf basically covers the lower mids, but somehow, I don't know how exactly, but somehow you still get pretty good clarity. It's not a super dark sound signature, nor is it super V-shaped, like the mids do not sound recessed. But let's get back to the bass for a second. Look, the bass is full-bodied. It's got plenty of mid-bass punch and slam, which is nice. It's got a good little sub-bass rumble. Surprising what that tiny little 8mm driver can do. So it's not the speediest bass out there, and it's not the crispest or tightest, but you know, it doesn't sound in the least out of control, but definitely if you're looking for something near neutral, then yeah, you have to look elsewhere for that. But that big bass can make for some really satisfying explosions if you're playing a game with explosions. That's pretty fun. Let's talk about the mids now, and the mids are nice and rich. They are full-bodied, but yet they are not overly thick. They are not muddy or veiled. Because if they were, I would just tell you these were rubbish, but they're not. Like, it's not like your, what was that HBB one? I can't even remember. I wanted it out of my hands and out of my ears and off my table as soon as possible. It was terrible. It was the Hades, that's what it was. This does not sound anything like that at all. These have a nice healthy bass boost without all the negative effects. So the mids are articulate, they are clear, but obviously there is some richness and saturation in there. It's not a neutral sound signature, it's not fully transparent, but in terms of tone and timbre and tonal balance, it is pretty nice to listen to. Now, in the treble area, there is a peak at 3 kilohertz followed by a dip, and then another peak at around 6 kilohertz. And what that does, it just adds a little bit of brightness and lifts up the sound. So that's probably what's preventing the mid-range from becoming veiled or muddy. But it is a strategically tuned treble that lifts up the sound, brightens things up without becoming harsh. Now, having said that, if there is a certain recording that has sort of inherent sibilance at 6 kilohertz, these aren't going to mask that. But for the most part, they offer you a sibilance-free listening experience. Now, when it comes to soundstage and technicalities, the overall resolution is really quite good on these. But the thing that impressed me most was the imaging. So being a gaming headphone, you would hope for really good spatial positioning and imaging and sort of 3D holographic effect. Well, I did some gaming with these, and yeah, I could hear exactly where things were going on. So for the purpose of gaming, these really nail it, at least for me. So the soundstage has nice, fairly even proportions of width and depth. It's a fairly natural sort of rounded shape. It's not overly congested or confined. It is a sort of a medium size space, and the stage position is reasonably close to the listener, but it's not too intimate, and it's not flat in like a 2D thing at all. And I know that was a terrible sentence, but I'm going to go with it. So, you know, there's not a whole lot more to say. It is a budget IEM, but it surprised me, and I'm not sure why they labeled it as a gaming earphone. Maybe I think it's kind of trending at the moment, these budget gaming earphones. But for music, purely music, these actually do a really good job. And I've been listening to these for a couple of days exclusively and been enjoying the heck out of them. Sure, they're not going to compete with more expensive IEMs in terms of, you know, detail retrieval and nuance, etc. But yeah, for the most part, they sound good. Now, let's do a couple of quick comparisons. I'll start with the Moondrop Chew 2. And at the time I reviewed these, I thought they were considerably warmer and bassier than the original Chew. I should have had to listen to the original as well, because you can see, well, I can see in the graph that the Roseselsa Photon Pro has significantly more bass lift than the Chew 2. But like I said, it doesn't come across to me as a bass headphone or earphone. Anyway, the Chew has a leaner sound signature. It's got a bit of a wider sound stage, but in terms of overall resolution, I guess they're pretty similar. The Chew might be slightly more detailed, but at the same time, some people might find it a bit shouty because it does have that lowered bass and a lifted lower treble. So that, you know, if you turn the volume up, some things might sound a bit shouty. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is the Cell Notes, the 7 Hertz Cell Notes 02. Actually, it's not the 02, it's just the original 7 Hertz Cell Notes 0. Now, this one, I couldn't believe it the first time I listened to these. Like, for a $20 set, I was blown away. But they have a very different presentation compared to the Photon Pro. But just check out the size difference. Have a look at that. Oh my goodness. What world are we living in? So yeah, but these have got better passive noise isolation, which is handy for some situations. But the 0 here has got way less bass. It the bass extension is pretty good. Like, you do hear those low sub-bass notes, and they are quite satisfying. But what this really does, it has a very spacious soundstage. I mean, mid-range is what I meant to say. Very spacious mid-range with good spacing between elements. It really puts a lot of emphasis on the core and upper mid-range, so vocals are very vibrant on the 0, as are things like guitars and just mid-range instruments in general. But these are great for acoustic music and very good also for vocal-centric music. When it comes to the treble, the 02 is a bit smoother as well, but it has to be because of the reduced bass level. So if you have just even a moderate amount of treble, if you have a very sort of restrained bass, you do risk treading into shouty or even harsh or sharp territory. But yeah, the Cell Note Zero finds a nice balance, at least for my ears. But I think the Photon Pro is going to be less fatiguing for most people, especially if you're having like hours-long gaming sessions. Then you'll appreciate that extra bit of body and warmth in the low end of the Photon Pro. But if you're looking purely for fidelity, then the Zero comes out ahead. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. Look, for 18 bucks, these are pretty solid IEMs. You get the microphone built in, so and the imaging is really solid, very impressive. So great for gaming, which is what they're being marketed as. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, Par Family Audiophile style. If you're new here, hey, hit that subscribe button before you go. And until next time, I'll see you later.